the top 20 albums of 2025 according to our collective voting. This is the second part of 5 to 9's Album of the Month, Album of the Year 2025 episode, where we share our top 10. I'm Andrew Belt, editor of the 5 to 9 blog, and joining me as always are Karl Blakesley of New Music Central and Kiley Larsen, the founder of label Mañana Records. But before we go into that top 10 and continue where we left off from 20 to 11, just got a few more questions as we reflect on the year. So yeah, your favourite month. I'm going to go to Kiley on this one for your favourite month out of our many Album of the Month episodes this year.
Yeah, I think this is a tough choice because every month there's a couple of really great records, and there might be a couple of records that didn't enjoy as much. So you just kind of, I can't say. Well, I can. One of these records really love. One of them I really like. But August would be it, which is funny enough. One that I wasn't able to make. We reviewed Deftones. Loved that record. Matt loved that record. Tops, I thought, as a big Tops fan, kind of disappointed to put them on that aughts indie letdown list maybe there. For those I love that record. And Wolf Alice will just say I'm culturally indifferent.
Very good. So Karl, what about you? What was your favourite album of the month?
I mean, fully enough, I was going to say August as well. I think based on my own rankings, for those I love and CMAT, both for my top 10 of the year, Deftones was right outside as well in the top 20. And even though I was kind of indifferent to that Wolf Alice record when we reviewed it back in August, it's really grown on me. I saw them a couple of weeks ago here in Nottingham, and their show was incredible. The songs really came to life at that show, so that was growing on me. And yeah, Tops as well, really enjoyed that record back in August, so I think that was one for me where it was like every single one of those records I've got a lot of time for.
Well, I wasn't expecting this, and I did jot down my pick before I sent this over to you, but August as well for me, 3 out of 3. So yeah, I mean, Deftones, great. CMAT, one of the, again, critically acclaimed albums of the year, and maybe not as strong as a previous album, but a really, really good one with some epic tracks. For those I love, cracking second effort from David Balfour, and Tops I really enjoyed. And so it's funny, like I say, I think this has happened a few times, maybe particularly with Kiley, where you kind of give an artist I haven't heard of before, and then I kind of go, oh, this is really enjoyable, and you'll often sort of say it's not quite the height of what they can achieve and what you've enjoyed in the past. So at least gives us a primer to do that discovery when we find the time. And what is the one I've not mentioned? It's ridiculous. Wolf Alice, yeah. So we've gone from culturally indifferent to grew on you, Karl, and this is one I enjoyed from the get-go, albeit I don't think it reaches the heights and the very high heights of previous Wolf Alice records, but they've gone in a new direction, and I think it really works for them, and they deserve their Mercury nomination. So yeah, that's the highs. On to the lows. Your least favourite month, Karl.
I mean, it's a tough one. I think, although I liked The Weeknd, I'd probably say January. I think January is always a tough one for those albums to kind of stick it through with you until the end of the year. And yeah, I mean, Lamborghini Girls, although I liked it more than I did, I've not gone back to it since. That Mogwai record is another one that, by all accounts, in another year, Mogwai would be right up there with my favourite albums of the year. I mean, that one before this one certainly was. Whereas this one, yeah, I've literally not revisited since January. So I think that was just one of those months where if I'm looking back at all each month there's at least one album I think I revisited, and January maybe less so. I mean, there was still the weekend in that month, which, as we mentioned the last part, I did revisit a lot. But yeah, definitely those other four I've not gone back to since we reviewed them, I'd say.
So January's your selection for the worst month. Kylie, what about you?
I mean, are we gonna go 3 for 3 again? Because I bet January as well. We spoke about the weekend in the first part of the episode. Baraboo States. Uh, I really liked that record, and it was a nice Marabou State record. Uh, but yeah, Lambrini Girls was one that I have not gone back to. Don't have any interest in. Amyl and the Sniffers. That's good enough for me. I only need one of those. Uh, Rose City Band, as someone that is a huge Rose City Band fan and have defended them on the podcast in the past, their record I haven't really gone back to. I'd say probably in the last 9 months or so. So I think that says something. And then Mogwai, one of my all-time favorite bands. I just felt like it was a little bit of a come down from their last record. Um, and yeah, so it's a tough choice, but I think if you have to go for 5 across the board that, didn't necessarily resonate, January would have to be that.
It is 3 from 3. January Blues. What's to us? We used to be so diverse with our.
Well, I was just thinking there while Cardi was reading about. I was like, oh yeah, Marabou State was January. I've actually played that a lot. So maybe mine's actually February, or yeah, maybe February, because that was Sharon Bonnet and Richard Dawson.
Sam
Well, it was
Fender.
February. Sam Fender, yeah. Yeah, but I'm changing mine to February, so let's go.
All right, there we go. 2 from 2 on. Yeah, January. Yeah, I mean, Rose City Band and Marabou State I haven't really gone back to. Fine enough at the time, but just not that replayability. The weekend didn't have that replayability for me, and tried to go back, but yeah, not the case. Mogwai was my pick that month, and I really, in terms of my favourite one that month, really enjoyed it at the time. But what I do find is when I have it in the jumbled list of 2025 songs, their ones are often skips, and these are like the best ones I add to my playlist. So, yeah, that says a lot. And yeah, Lambrini Girls, a bit of staying power really this year, but not much. There we go. So recency bias you might level at us. And then we're looking at the year, but we have to also touch upon, as we announced in the first part of our year-end episode, that Kylie, this is sadly your last episode as a regular host on the show. As we keep saying, we'll have you back. We hope you do join us again. So I'm gonna sort of give you one about the last 3 years which we've been doing this, and whether there's either a favorite moment or a favorite album discovery from the last 3 years. And yeah, quite tricky to put you on the spot on this one.
Yeah, I don't know if there's necessarily a specific record, but besides signing up to do this because I enjoy you guys and appreciate your friendship. We've discussed a lot, especially in the 90s and 2000s. I was very much on top of my UK music scene, and I thought that this podcast would be a great opportunity to get back into that and keep up on things. So I appreciate, uh, for whatever reason, there's a lot of UK buzz bands that don't necessarily make their way stateside, so I just appreciate. It seems like every few months there's one that I might not have known about otherwise, and for you guys to bring it to my attention and just make me more informed and engaged on what's going on with your guys' thing, and favorite overall, just hanging out every month and sticking to this. And I'm just it for three people to get on a call every month, it takes a lot, and I appreciate that we've done it, and hate to be the one to bail because of the workload, but it's been great.
That's so yeah, great to hear. It's the cultural exchange. I think what I've realized is maybe how Anglo-centric my music listening is. I think I love a lot of American bands and definitely grew up with them. Um, but yeah, I'm often thinking, oh, I'm always picking like British artists and all this sort of stuff. And so sometimes it feels like that diversity could be better on my front. And I think similarly from what you're saying, dipping back into the UK side, there's so many American bands I've never heard of, and you've opened up to us. Like I say, even if they're not the best albums of these artists you brought to us, but uh, yeah, 100% echo the whole friendship over these 3 years, and yeah, just a great experience, and that it takes there to be something pretty special to be able to do this so regularly, as adults with our jobs and everything else, and workloads and stuff, and yeah, I think real testament to that, and yeah, so very much valued. I am actually going to pick a band though. So, in terms of the 3 years and what you brought to the table, Kylie, I think my abiding band, and we kind of referred to them in the first part, is the Lemon Twigs. Like if I think of one, and there's been so many you've brought to the table, which is expanding my musical like knowledge, and bands or artists who I now really look out for based on what you brought to the table. But the Lemon Twigs for me, I think, are the quintessential like Kylie album of the month band. First of all, bringing them, what was it, May 2023, I think, with Everything Harmony. I gotta admit, the first listen was like, whoa, this is twee, like but once you actually get into it and stuff, that really grew to love that one. That was one which sort of was high in May, and then by December was like another few points up the ranking by that point. Then they followed up the following year. Dream was all we know, fantastic, and then Brian Daria. So judging by their frequency as well, I think every year we're gonna have a Lemon Twigs until we stop doing this, essentially, and that would be my like I say, quintessential Kylie band from our 3 years on the pod. I mean, Karl, from 3 years, what would be your favorite Kylie addition to the mix?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo the Lemon Twigs. I mean, obviously, me and Kylie got to see them together in Philadelphia, which incredible week. We saw Yard Act as well, who was another one that we covered in the pod. So seeing them back to back in some really cool venues in Philadelphia, drinking far too much some night.
Jealous at all?
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely Lemon Twigs. And I'm not sure about you guys, but I mean, you were talking there, Andrew, about how it's grown in stature for you from like May to December that year. But if I'm looking back at 2023 now, I mean, that like Young Fathers defined the year very much so, I think, in the moment. But I think if I look back to that year now, I'd definitely play Lemon Twigs far more than I play that Young Fathers record. I think it's definitely one from 2023 that stuck with me. I still regularly revisit. And again, it's going back to, you're tying it up in those memories that you make of hearing that music in different settings and things like that. And yeah, that week in Philadelphia definitely tied up in that. So yeah, great album, and yeah, glad that Kylie brought that to the table. And I still need to listen to that Monkey record that we talk about every time.
Oh yeah,
So that's
back to school or
yeah, that's for sure getting
school.
picked. Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, that's when we'll bring you back on for sure. So
Yeah, we'll review it on the pod. Redux.
I got to push back just a little bit though, Andrew. Anglo-centric uh, uh, music view. I think that uh, pretty much from the start, the last 3 years, I think we've done a fairly great job at bringing female artists to the table, non-binary artists to the table, persons of color. Um, it's always I think the three of us look at the nominations that we're going to put forth every month, and there may be something that is the 11th album of a band that we really like, but does it mean more to talk about a debut record from someone that's not a white guy? So I think as far as indie music criticism goes, I think this podcast has done a very good job at representing other outlooks on life.
I will say I have lent more into, this is just what I want to listen to, and because it shapes what I live. But no, I fully agree, and that's the point essentially, is to bring that diverse mix of artists, genres, what you have, and new as well, which was also one of the big pushes with it. Albeit new also exists with favourites and artists who have been going a long while, and I think there'll be a few more of those as we get into our 10. So we're gonna finish what we started 3 years ago when I even booked out a podcast studio for the one and only time where the lights kept on going off, and we kept on. I only booked it for an hour, but fortunately no one else had booked it after me.
Like a bloopers section on the channel and upload that at some point.
To say it essentially, probably, and yeah, with circle waves, memories. So on to our top 10 albums of 2025 from the pod. So 10th is Stardust by Danny Brown. It received 35 points and was our album of the month for November, chosen by Kylie. Kylie also awarded it the most points. So yeah, your views please on Stardust.
Yeah, as we talked about in part one, I have an entirely different playlist for hip hop this year. It's underground left field hip hop, and just a fantastic year, including Andrew. I saw your number one record of the year. Couldn't agree more on that being towards the top. But Danny Brown, longtime Detroit rapper, first record, fully out of rehab, sober, and just feels like a fresh chapter for him, from his lyrical flow to really leaning into adding a hyper pop flair to his hip hop repertoire. And, as we talked about, if you're into hyper pop, this is kind of a murderer's row of the current scene, as far as guest features on this record. But then also coming back to like Starburst and Lift You Up, those songs that are just Danny Brown, I think are equally as great. Yeah, still loving 13 of the 14 tracks. Had a Green Light with Frost Children is still just a skip. I've tried again. I can't do it. And yeah, I think incorporating that hyper pop flow to this has turned me on to some new things. I was just checking out the new Jane Remover EP that came out and really enjoying that. And Quadaka's features on here too, also great. So yeah, hip hop. When you, uh, I don't know if reinvented the wheel, but I think hip hop's like in such a great creative space outside the radio right now, and I hope everyone's embracing this cool era that we're living in.
Yeah, Carl, what do you have to add on Stardust?
Yeah, I mean, as we saw in November, I really loved this record. Finished top of the pile for me. And it's Danny Brown at his most Danny Brown is how I would describe it. It's just very eccentric, very all over the place stylistically, but that's what makes it such a fun record to listen to. I think, yeah, bringing in those hyper pop elements, bringing in, a bit of screamo at times with some of the collabs that he's got on there, some straight up like regular pop on there as well. And yeah, it's just a really fun front to back listen. I've continued to play it since we reviewed it a few weeks back. Um, and yeah, it just adds to his stellar discography. He's one artist that I've got a lot of time for. I'm looking at the Atrocity Exhibition CD, sort of sticking out at the end of my CD rack there, and he's just made so many great records in the last few years, and they're all completely different from one another. And I think that's one of my favorite things that I like about his creativity is he never does the same thing twice. And this is his pop moment, and he does a great job of it. And I will go one step further and say I like 14 of the 14 tracks because I don't mind the Frost Children collab. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the word I think about whenever I think about this album is fun. It is just so much fun. There's so much variety. Would not class myself as a hyperpop fan by any stretch, but he does this skillfully, brings in a lot of collabs, which keeps it fresh. Probably the two, it's an album about sobriety, but kind of in the context of this hyperpop leaning genre wise. I think the kind of sober songs on this album, the opener, the Book of Daniel, is that what it's yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that one's just really out of this world, one of the top rap songs this year, and then the other one with Kudeka in the middle of the album as well, just very different to the rest of the album, but excellent. And then the rest, is just fun, and then it's just different levels of enjoyment depending on your taste, and whether you like it or not. I mean, I think that one we have with I believe she's a Polish rapper, even though it's Ukrainian, which is at the end. But that one for me is a bit of a microcosm of the album because the first 4 minutes of that I think are fantastic, and then the sort of 3-4 minutes towards the end with the two other collaborators is a bit less enjoyable for me, and I think that kind of summarizes this. You'll get something you really enjoy from it, and other bits which are part of the journey, but you won't go back to as much. But yeah, I wouldn't say any of it jars as much as sort of say, taking a song out of this. So I'd stick with 14 out of 14, but like I say, different levels of enjoyment per song. So they're a great project, and one artist which I know both of you are very familiar with, whereas this was a first try for me, and very glad that he was on the roster and I got to enjoy it. So next in 9th place, and a couple of points above on 37, is Pain to Power by Maruja. This was runner-up in September. I selected it, but Karl awarded the most points. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that debut here in December?
Yeah, I mean, this ended up my runner-up debut album of the year, just behind Divorce. It was one of those records I didn't have any expectations going in. I didn't know what I was about to listen to first time I spun it. And what I was greeted with was something completely unique, sonically very satisfying in terms of the genre mix on there, you know, jazz passages, bit of post-punk. Again, just a bit all over the place, which, you know, when you listen to as much music as we do, you know, when something is different, that's what really sticks out. And this was very much that record for me. Yeah, it was one of those albums that the first listen, yeah, blew me away. It really did blow me away. The songwriting on it, the themes behind the songs, what they're talking about. Yeah, just every aspect of it was just first rate, especially for a debut. I know they've been going since 2014, so they've had a lot of time to polish their sound since then. So it probably shouldn't be surprising it's as polished as it is. But yeah, just an album I really enjoyed this year. Finished well inside my top 20 overall. And yeah, I was gutted to miss them when they played Nottingham a few weeks ago, because again, I think if I'd seen that live, it probably would have blown me away even more. So yeah, I'm really glad you picked this one, Andrew, and definitely one that's right up there for me this year.
And Kylie, what's your thoughts on Pain to Power? You're on mute. The classic Zoom.
Yeah, I'm still loving this record too, and I think well worth the wait on the you know, history of this band and putting out this debut record. But when I think of, you know, records that are what I would call, you know, very 2025 looking to the future, I think Maruja put that together here. Just mixing together the jazz elements with the post-punk works out so well, and the tense moments, I think, just work so well for this year, and it feels so fresh and current. It's a really great record.
Yeah, okay, that kind of Rage Against the Machine, but you know, times Black Country New Road. It's just not a mix you would ever expect to find the light of day, but somehow they make this kind of jazz rap rock kind of work, and yeah, some incredibly powerful songs, yeah, a few of which will be certainly some of my favorites from this year. So yeah, exciting kind of band, and a good one for us to cover and sort of see where they go next. Now we move on to 8th spot, which is Lotus by Little Simz. 38 points. It was our album of the month in June. I selected it and awarded it the most points. So yeah, it was massively talked about at the time. I mean, No Thank You, Little Simz's previous record from 2022 was my selection for the album of the decade so far. When we did a bit of a look at that through the blog earlier this year, and that only being slightly better than Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, which is an absolute masterpiece, and first got into Little Simz with Grey Area, which was Mercury nominated in 2019, and you know is a great album in its own right. So you know, 3 on the trot. What can we do here with Lotus, and also dealing with the fallout with her previous producer Inflow, who produced her last 2 records, which are some of the best rap records I've heard, at least. And yeah, so it's tricky circumstances, but I feel like what has come out of it is such a credit to Little Simz. Covers an awful lot. I know that there's the one song, Is It Young, which divided a lot of people. I think it has its place in the record. Maybe not so much a single, but maybe that one aside, it's kind of typical Simz, just staying on top of things. I think, Carly, you had a few issues with the production, because that was one of the things I commented on how what I thought was really great about this. It maybe doesn't reach the grandiosity of what Inflo had produced for her the previous two. So it's an incredibly high bar. And for what it's worth, I don't think this is up to the standards of those previous two, but it's not far off. And I think that in itself is an achievement. And she continues to be the best British hip hop artist going right now. Having said that, I mean, you mentioned Dave earlier, Karl. I do want to listen to his one because he's bringing out some great records. But yeah, this was just high up there, and was certainly my consideration for the best album I'd heard this year. Albeit I felt I couldn't, considering that her previous two were even higher in my estimation. So yeah, Karl, what did you make of Lotus?
Yeah, I mean, Simz, as you say, continues to be an artist all to herself. Those, yeah, Grey Area, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert, and No Thank You, just an incredible run of albums. And I would say this one is slightly below. I mean, I was lucky enough to obviously see her around the album release, so to got that kind of experience with these songs as well. But I think ultimately it was one that I didn't play as much as her previous work. So a bit like, I guess, Suede in that sense, where I think just comparing it to what they've done before, but then when you compare it to the rest of what's come out this year, she's still, right up there, doing stuff that a lot of artists aren't, with her creativity and what she's pulling together. And like you say, in the circumstances of this record as well, losing her producer and, Cleo Soul and, key elements that made those last couple of records what they were. Going back to square one, I think, yeah, she knocked it out of the park as best she could on this one. And there's some incredible moments on there. I mean, Lion and Flood with A Bong Your Heart. Absolutely love those tracks still. I think anytime those two collab, it's just dynamite. The one with Moses Sumney piece, again, that's a song that I've just played over and over again this year. So yeah, I mean, definitely some real high points on this record. But yeah, maybe just a level, as you say, a level below what she's done before, but still just continues to be well worthy of a spot in our top 10 here, I would say.
And Kylie, what's your thoughts on Lotus? Sort of half a year on.
Yeah, and unfortunately, my opinion hasn't changed that much. This has been one that I just haven't really found myself, going back to. I do think there's some highlights. I really, I think "Free" is one of my favorite songs of the year. Kind of channels her inner Lauryn Hill, so Aquarians, early 2000s jazz hip hop really got me with that one. I like the Moses Sumney feature and Lotus with Michael Kiwanuka and Yusuf Days. But yeah, for me, Sometimes I Might Be an Introvert is still, my favorite record of hers, and just hasn't quite matched that. But again, this is, uh, I appreciate Little Simz, but just one that doesn't always resonate with me. So appreciate her, but yeah, this record just hasn't been one that I've gone back to very much.
There we go. So we move on to 7th place, which was just a point higher on 39. Everybody Scream by Florence and the Machine. And this was the runner-up in our spooky October episode. I selected it, but Karl awarded it the most points. So Karl, what made it stand out so much for you?
Yeah, I mean, big admirer of Florence since the very early days, as we kind of mentioned on the October pod. And for me, this is one of her best albums to date. It's as simple as that. I think since we reviewed it in October, it's been in continuous rotation. I think there's some outstanding songs on here. One of the greats, The Old Religion, the singles as well, Sympathy Magic, Everybody Scream. There's just so many tracks that I just love revisited. And when you take into account the concept of the record and how it came about and those tragic circumstances that she went through and how she's turned it into this record, I think that raw emotion and that harrowing experience, it just pours out of this record, and her performance in particular. Every time, sometimes she'll hit those vocals and it's just goosebumps. So yeah, I mean, it finished inside my personal top 10, and I can see this is going to be an album I'm going to continue to play in the coming months, probably all the way up till she headlines Reading and Leeds next year, which she's been announced for. I've seen some discourse on that already where people are saying that she doesn't deserve the headline slot. She's not a headliner, and
What?
ridiculous, if you ask me.
Yeah.
If they listen to this record, they would know she is very much deserving. She's one of the best artists we got, certainly in the kind of indie rock scene. And yeah, she cements that on this record for me. So yeah, absolutely love it. Continue to love it, and you'll be pleased to know, Kylie, listened to the chamber version since the pod, and yeah, that kind of strips it right down to just her vocals, and it's just spine tingling. So great little companion EP to go with the album as well, and yeah, love this record.
Damn. I mean, over to you, Kylie. What's your addition to what Karl has to say about Everybody Scream?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with anything Karl said, and this was one that I was really glad that we reviewed because I missed her last couple of records. I don't know why. After we taped the pod, I was talking to Alexis about it, and she was like, "How did you not listen to Dance Fever? That album is so good." So, need to go back to that. But yeah, that's just silly to say that she doesn't deserve headlining spots because this is a headliner's record. This is a massive record, and the tragic backstory. If you're going to come out of anything, I think if anything's going to come out of it positive, I think Everybody Scream is that record. Still loving it, and yeah, I mean, there has to be an entire version of the chamber version, right?
Yeah.
It's good. She's gonna pull a Springsteen, and we won't get it for 40 years, but I know it's there.
We'll keep our eyes open for when that drops. But yeah, I can echo Alexis. Yeah, Dance Fever I thought was a great one from I think 2022. And so was very excited when this one was on its way. And yeah, I think it's a very, very strong record. She's the kind of person who would make me want to go up the road to the Reading Festival, which is kind of often seems less compelling each year. And maybe were it not for the £25 add-on to the previous £100 day rate, I would have done that immediately. But anyway, she remains a reason to consider it. And yeah, I mean, she's one of the best vocalists in going around, and has been since the very beginning with ceremonials and those first tracks in 2007 with Lungs, where she sort of came onto the scene. So yeah, I mean, it kind of passed me by the personal circumstances going into this record, but it really brings it to the fore, and it's a messy record in that regard. It's a very honest record where she really sort of conveys the emotions and perhaps not always the emotions you would immediately identify with in such circumstances, but like I say, that's the candid nature of Florence Welch, and yeah, it's a very, very strong one, as part of a very strong discography so far. So I do hope I get to see her next year in one way or another. The O2 won't be either. I think that's sold out. So we now come on to album in 6th place. So there's a little jump from 39 points to 42 points, and that is Carving the Stone by For Those I Love. The artist's debut earlier won our album of the decade so far, earlier this year. And yeah, Karl, you were always going to select this one, surely. Knowing how much you love his self-titled debut, you also gave it the highest score. So Carving the Stone,
Yeah,
look to us.
yeah. I mean, this was one that I went into with a lot of nervousness, trepidation. First time I spun it because of how much I value that first album and the impact it had on me. Listening to that and continue to listen to that first album. It was the dreaded sophomore slump. I was like, is that lingering in the background? Because I think, as I said, I always kind of felt with how ingrained that album was in his grief, in that loss. It was like that was kind of his identity as an artist on that record. So it was like, where does he go to from there? I I didn't know the answer, so that was kind of like approach this with trepidation. But as soon as I heard, the lead single of The Sorrows, as soon as that dropped, my mind was put at ease. And I think once the album came around and I heard it in all its glory, for me, um, it was as best as I could have hoped for. I think coming for a second album, he kind of takes the similar power of his music in terms of the emotion and the memories and the nostalgia and um what he puts forward in his music. He kind of takes that, but he channels it this time in frustration and anger, and it's more of a loss of identity for his country and his city, rather than a loss of a person. So it still has those same emotional highs when you're listening to it. Again, some beautifully written tracks. I mentioned Of the Sorrows, but The Ox is still one of my favorite songs of the year. That's just such a beautifully told story on this record. Um, but yeah, it's just one of those where lightning struck twice for me. And yeah, it finished in my own personal top 5 again. Could have been higher up on a different day as well. It's one of those. But yeah, glad to see you guys enjoyed it as much as I did as well. And yeah, very pleased it made the top 10.
Kylie, Carving the Stone, what's your view a few months on?
Yeah, I think going into this record, I shared every feeling that Karl had, that the self-titled debut was just For Those I Love is a project that I honestly sometimes have a hard time putting into words, like what there is to say about it, because David Balfe is his own little genre here, with the you know electronic textures, but acoustic instrumentation, and then his brogue over the top of it. And in one way it's like the Maruja record, where there's just not anything else like this right now, and I think that needs to be appreciated. But we were talking on the last part too about storytelling, and I just I think he's an Irish treasure of a storyteller. And as someone that's a lot over the last 3 years talked about how little I can care about lyrics sometime, he is one that I'm just hanging on every note, because he does such a good job of intertwining the nostalgia with the stark reality of the issues that we face every day right now. And he's one of those people that I think just communicates so well, how you can sometimes be in limbo between the nostalgia and the everyday issues. So yeah, it's just phenomenal record. No such thing as a sophomore slump. More greatness. Love this record.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, it was kind of 2 times over with sort of going back to his debut for the album of the decade so far, like Project from earlier in the year. I mean, that one I kind of was scratching my head why I hadn't listened to the day, because the title track I loved from that, the pandemic year, and the first pandemic year. It was 2020, wasn't it? That first came.
2021.
2021, yeah.
Okay, so I think we were still fairly in it, but that song itself got a lot of airplay, and was just one which kind of floored me. And like I say, I just couldn't give a rational reason for why I've not gone to the album. And so it was a good opportunity to do so, and yeah, was 100% worthwhile. Catharsis in album form, that it really, really is. And then yeah, as you say, so when this one comes around, you're like, having shed so much of that, what is there more to give? And yeah, it's taking maybe a bit longer than some artists in getting through to their second one, but in doing so, it's kind of refining that same formula, but finding different tales to tell, whilst not completely removing himself from the pain which still lingers. And yeah, I think it's that tale of identity, place, and yeah, nation, sort of national pride in a sense, and people who can be left behind, and some of those tales. I think great storyteller, and I think, yeah, as Kylie says, is someone you want to listen to every word and understand it and unpack. And then this is what he does, almost like with the best rappers. That's what you try and do when the lyricism is so dense. So yeah, really, really great second record. I would say it doesn't meet those very high standards of the debut, but it is a very, very solid second record, and one which I was very pleased to be brought to the table. And then yeah, we get on to the final 5. So in 5th is our only wildcard entrant to the roster, Adorning by Ólafur, Arnalds and Talos. So this joined the Best of the Rest albums we missed out on during the year, which we came together in November to pick 2 each, and then vote them, and with only 5 actually having their scores rank, for fairness. So this was Karl's selection, and for this album of the year episode, it accrued 46 points, and Karl gave the highest number of those. So take us through Adorning.
Yeah, I mean, well, firstly, I was quite pleased to see it get through in the wild card round. I wasn't expecting it. I think we all had our money on Turnstile kind of sneaking through, but I think it's a testament to this record, why it's here and why it's ended up so high as well on the final overall scores. I mean, it's fitting that it comes after that For Those I Love placing, because everything we said about that debut, those feelings, I get the same with this record. It's every time I listen to it, it knocks me for 6. It's it's very much of the context in which it was made, which is, where in French, Talos sadly passed away. He just started collaborating with Ólafur Arnalds, the Icelandic composer, on these set of songs. And then they found out that he was, seriously sick. And then they kind of used the album making process to, heal themselves as they were going through this awful, awful thing. And obviously, yeah, Aaron French sadly passed away, and kind of left Ólafur Arnalds to pulling his friends and Talos's friends to finish this project, and I think what's left is just the most beautiful album from start to finish. I mean, it's kind of centered around a few key tracks. I mean, Bedrock is definitely one of my favorite songs of the year. I think hearing Talos's voice on that song and how sweet and talented that man was, it's just thinking of that and hearing that song, it's hard not to be moved. It's hard not to be moved listening to that song. And there's other moments like that. The title track, Adorning, has that same power. And then we didn't know we were ready right at the end. But there is a hopefulness and you know, a life affirming nature, I think, about this record. And I think that's a big part of the beauty. It's not completely you know, sad and depressing. It makes you very grateful for what you've got and who you've got around you. Um, and that's what every album should be for me. It should give you that feeling. So yeah, absolutely love this record. We'll continue to play it. We'll continue to be moved by it in very what's the word? In very powerful ways, I would say. And yeah, just a testament to Ólafur Arnalds for finishing this project with the grace and the delicacy that he has. So yeah, you've got those key tracks, and then the other moments are like vignettes and beautiful instrumentals that kind of tie it all together into this 8-track opus. And yeah, he kind of, I read an interview where he said it's the thing that they can gather around and kind of sharing to give them strength and remember, yeah, or in French, their friend and loved one. So yeah, a beautiful album, and yeah, just glad that it made it onto this final 20, and that, like I said, that it placed so high up, because I think everyone needs to listen to this record. It's for me, it's an essential listen.
And Kylie, what would you make of Adorning?
Yeah, I was happy Karl submitted this record, and I'm happy that it's continued to, you know, grow its following on the podcast here in the wild card round. Ólafur Arnalds, just someone that I got into a long time ago when he toured with Sierra Rose, and started checking out his stuff then. And it's funny, like, between those two, an album this gorgeous, it starts to feel like only records like this could come from Iceland. It just has that natural beauty to it, and working with Talos on these tracks, just such a great accompaniment to Arnold's compositions. Uh, yeah, and I do want to say the vignettes, like West Cork, February 12th, and for Steph, I really, really love those songs in their own way and give it just this real complete feel. But yeah, the final track, we didn't know we were ready. I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Niam Reagan, her vocal work on that, just fantastic and gorgeous. And yeah, I think my only complaint is a rare one for me these days, is that I know this is from a small selection of this project, the time that they had, but at 30 minutes, I wish it was longer, because I could always take more of this record. It's just gorgeous and deserves to be as high as we have it here.
Yeah, as you say, you can't listen to it without the context. And yeah, it's very brief. It's almost, you know, there's a bit of a sketchbook kind of vibe, you know, from a time and place, and then having to pick up the pieces from, you know, the tragic circumstances and not being able to potentially fully realize, which almost echoes what you're saying there, Kylie. I suppose if they had that more time, then maybe, you know, we'd have had a much different record than what we have ultimately. But yeah, I mean, the absolute standout is We Didn't Know We Were Ready for me. I think the lyrics are quite opaque. But there's something about the ones on that one. Again, they are, brief lyrics that they're not really fully rounded out, but the sentiment of that one, it just with the music it just reaches a very high point where it's essentially kind of saying, the idea of being ready for things is almost defunct. Now is the time, and this is and you don't always realize how special things are until you might have such terrible news as Owen French would have faced during the recording of this record, and the way that's done, really delicate, like I say, lyricism and delivery on that one. So it's an absolute high point, one of the best tracks of the year, 100%. And yeah, a very, very special project, and yeah, great that the wild card could unearth this and bring it to the fore, and yeah, not only do that, but score so highly, in the context of so many great albums we've listened to this year, and had more time to kind of absorb as well. So
I'll just quickly say as well, because I didn't mention it in the review, was shout out to my mum, who actually put me onto this record, because she was watching RTE. She saw that performance of We Didn't Know We Were Ready. She then started listening to Talos. I then went back to his Choice Prize winning no, he didn't win it, but he was nominated for the Choice Prize. Went back to that record, loved it. And then subsequently, I went on to this one and learned about him and his story. And in doing that, I also found out that he supported the editors at Rock City at one of the shows that I went to see the editors, and I didn't go in for the support that night, and that's not going to happen anymore, because I think this is a case that, I always try to get in for the support anyway these days, but if ever there was a story to say go see the support, it was finding out that I missed him in 2018, around that time of that Choice Prize nominated album. So there you go. You never know who you're going to see, so get down and see the support bands.
Yeah,
tomorrow. So
echo that 100.
Very good. So yeah, in fourth is May's album of the month winner, 21st Century Fiction by the Amazons. This one also gained 46 points. Was Karl's pick, and Karl and I gave it the most points. And Karl, I'll defer to you, because whilst I loved it equally from a scoring perspective, I only have the one album as a background, this one, whereas you followed the band, I think, from their inception. So
yeah, this was kind of like you say, I followed the Amazons since 2015. They formed in 2014. Lucky enough to discover them very early. They only had one single out when I first saw them, and immediately I was like, these guys have something. And I think it's all just been building to what we get on 21st Century Fiction. I think the last few albums, as much as I've loved them and I've enjoyed them immensely, they would say themselves, it was very much like figuring out who they are, what they do best. And I think they've figured that out, and that's what they present here on 21st Century Fiction. It's, their previous records were very much just a collection of singles, collection of songs. This one is, stitched together as an album, very cinematic from the moment it opens to the moment it closes. The way the track list is pieced together, everything is thought about. But the main difference this time is they've pulled extra characters into into the production, basically. So their drummer Joe departed at the end of the last album cycle, and they were reduced to a trio, but they're actually like more of a 5-piece on this record. With the extra guitarist that they bring in, and then Ella McRobb, who adds so much to their sound, to their music. Her vocal harmonies on this with Matt are just outstanding. I think she adds so much to the Amazons' music, and I hope that she sticks around for future projects, future live shows, because yeah, she's definitely an incredible talent. So yeah, I mean, I think it was very much like my favorite band putting out their best album. It's everything when you know that your favorite, like one of your favorite bands has got a new album coming out, you hope that it's gonna deliver everything that you want from it. And I think this album very much did that for me. Very cinematic, and yeah, I think in a year where, you know, where Oasis getting back together was the big story. I think for me, a young rock band delivering their best album yet deserved the acclaim, which it obviously didn't get this year. So happy to have it on our list. Happy to have it top of my list, and yeah, gonna continue to play this record over and over as much as I have done this year.
Yeah, top of my list too. And but I think we'll kind of go from high to. I mean, Kylie, it was a fairly mild reception. I think when we did this pod in May, I think there was a reference to kind of Muse in terms of the theatricality, but not in a positive sense. So and yeah, it was 2 points. I think you gave it. So it was sort of second last out of the 22 albums we were kind of ranking at the end here. So so yeah, you still unmoved by 21st Century Fiction.
Yeah, I am, and I think unfortunately it just comes down to it, it's the culture side of it that it doesn't do much for me. And you know, this is like the part of the podcast that is tough, because with how much you guys enjoy it, and then I'm like, damn, what are they hearing here? So, you know, I I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I do. There's some great guitar riffs on this record. Uh, I appreciate the arena rockness of it. You know, we're all gonna go to the Milton Keynes Bowl and see the lads. You know, um, but yeah, I think it comes down to just the slickness, and then for me, Matt Thompson's vocals just I I don't know. There's this. I've been trying to find a way to describe it for years now, but for the last 10, 15 years in British music, there's just this thing with the vocals that turns me off, and that's the case with the Amazons. So yeah, just I don't know. And and you know, kudos, Karl, to you saying that Oasis was the big news, but for you, this is the big news. Like that's what I'm all about. I appreciate having something else outside the zeitgeist to be happy about. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I will just uh sort of echo where Karl is with this album, and this is the first time I've listened to a full Amazon's album. They're a band who've kind of been there, but kind of it feels like been there past the generation when I was sort of maybe listening to these bands, and certainly at a point when I sort of my new music listening really dwindled. So I've been, you know, they've been there in the precipice. I've been at Reading Festival where they did a surprise set in one of the tents, and it was like packed outside. You couldn't get in, so there's been a big buzz around them. I think it's a very prescient point. The Oasis one, you know, kind of this didn't feel, and I could be wrong, but it didn't feel like it got the kind of recognition, you know, I would say it deserves, and Karl would as well. I mean, just really love an album where it's just sort of flows so well, and then here with all the little interludes which sort of you know, go from one song to another in a very nice packaged way. Yeah, quite well produced in that sense. But yeah, I was really quite blown away by this one, and yeah, for me it just sort of like soared through, and I couldn't pick a bad track throughout. So really good introduction to them, and hope the acclaim does come. Maybe not with this one, but maybe they need to go, to their next one to sort of solidify what they're doing and where they are in British rock music right now. But yeah, very 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 strong one, and possibly our most divergent in terms of where we land, but between the two of us and Kylie on this one. But still, fourth place is a great result there. And now we move on to the medal positions. So bronze medal winner in third place is Tremor by Daniel Avery. This was November's album of the month, earning 49 points for this album of the year episode. Kylie's selection. Kylie and I both gave it as high a ranking in our point scoring, but just like the Amazons, Kylie knows way more about Daniel Avery than I am, and so you are far better placed to kick us off with Tremor.
Yeah, this for me was the big anticipated record of the year. After giving his last one, Ultra Truth, I think second place the year it came out, and we talked about Danny Brown at the top of this episode. Karl, you said that no albums sound alike, and I think that's the same thing with Daniel Avery, starting out with this left field techno um, sound, and he just continues to morph with every record. And this one we've still got the techno and electronic music, but it just leans so hard into new metal and alternative, and brings back genres of yore and makes them sound fresh with these massive beats and textures behind them. uh and also just a really good features record, including Ellie from Wolf Alice, who here on Hayes, I love her outing on that record. And for me, my favorite thing she's done, in the Bedroom and Une Pinku, Alison Mosshart from the Dead Weather, Yuli and Walter Schreifels, we talked a lot about that just being such a collaboration that I would Daniel Avery with this you know foundational emo alternative guy. uh and so yeah, I'm still loving this record. It came out a couple months ago, but it's been probably one of the three that I just, if I don't know what to listen to, I'm reaching for this. Love this record. I would rank it third on my personal list of the year. Did not disappoint, and I appreciate that Daniel Avery continues to just evolve and surprise. Does it again here.
And I got it wrong. It was October's album of the month, just at the start, because it was Danny Brown who won November's. So it was from our spooky selection then. So
Surprisingly spooky record.
yeah. I mean, it was only the Zahe de Sazagan one, which was not in that ballpark. Because even the last dinner party had the kind of baroque goth element, I suppose.
Well, Fridge Circus music could be spooky too.
Yeah, add the clown on the front.
Yeah, that true. So yeah, Tremor for you, Karl. I mean, yeah, like I say, third place. So
Yeah, I mean, okay, what Kylie said. I mean, just love Dan Avery, love every project that he brings out. And I think this one, again, just tops what he did prior. His best album to date for me. Everything about it, I just love. I mean, it's dark, it's industrial. The features on here are fantastic. And yeah, the soundscapes that he kind of forges together with those collaborators are just like really atmospheric, really immersive. Just one that I'm happy to strap on my headphones, revisit front to back, get lost in for an hour or so, and it's just a fantastic record. And I think I think those features, they add to his sound, but I think when it's just him as well doing his electronic stuff, it's those moments I love just as much as well. So yeah, great album, definitely up there with electronic album of the year for me. Maybe just have a Barry Can't Swim ahead of it. I'll have to check with my rankings where I put everything, but yeah, I absolutely love this record, and yeah, continue to just wait and see what Dan Avery gives us next, because I know it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, didn't know what to expect. Not familiar with his work. It was just electronic artist, so this blew me away in all the right ways. So and yeah, just fantastic list of collaborators on here, like the surprising Ellie Rousel cameos. You mentioned Kiley, and so many others. And as you mentioned, the Walter Schreibels as well, who hadn't put two and two together about rival schools and where it'd come from in the past. So that was a nice little reference back to early 2000s kind of Kerrang music TV band. But yeah, just fantastic. Yeah, industrial, as you say, Karl, and yeah, it's kind of a really immersive, dark, and yeah, snackable listen. Is Tremor. So that is our bronze medal winner. In silver, in second place is Dead Channel Sky by Clipping. This was our album of the month for March. It was chosen by guest picker Phil Taylor, aka the Music Observer. And this one ended up 5 points off the summit with our end of year ranking with 51 points. Kiley and I gave it an equal ranking, and I'll go to Kiley to kind of take us through this one first.
Yeah, Clipping, just, I think been at least 15 years now they've been going on, and like Danny Brown, the hip hop group that is just always constantly evolving, and Dead Channel Sky Plus really brought in this cyberpunk element to it. A lot of dial up modem, PTSD throughout this record. I mean that is a compliment. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? Daveed Diggs, I think, is just one of the slickest MCs around. This dude is just so quick sometimes. I'd say Run It, one of my favorite songs of the year, just gets you pumped up every time. Code, love that one as well. And then, we've talked so much about collaborations this year, and like Malays with Nels Klein from Wilco, like to have, this freeform jazz guitarist come in and throw a beat on top of it. Just, I think such a cool moment. And then the Night of Heaven with Counterfeit Madison, Kid Koala, another great features there. And then, unfortunately, Aesop Rock put out two great records this year. We didn't get to talk about either one of them. You should listen to them. But Welcome Home Warriors, great to have him show up there towards the end of the record. But yeah, I've been seeing Dead Channel Sky Plus on a lot of year-end records, and it's beating the dead horse, but left field hip hop having another moment right now, and it's so good to see this record appreciated as much as it is, because I don't think it's like necessarily the most approachable hip hop record this year, but I think if you spend the time with it, really, really come to appreciate it, and just another phenomenal outing from them.
Yeah, Karl, what do you have to add for our silver medal winner for 2025?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, shout out to Phil for picking it.
Yeah, very
'Cause
much.
Yeah, I mean, we've been very hit and miss with guest picks, but I mean, this was one that was very much a hit. Um, Similar experience to the Maruja record in a way, where I went into it not really familiar with clipping, didn't know what to expect, and immediately I was like, "This is right up my street." Yeah, that opening run of uh, "Run It, Dominator, Change the Channel," like every time I listen to that, it's just such a blast. I mean, I compare like the beats to the Prodigy, Chemical Brothers, but then you've got Daveed Diggs over the top of it, just rapping at a million miles an hour, just spinning you, spinning you right round, and it's just dazzling. It really is. And then, yeah, when I was writing about this album for my year-end blog, I was like, how to describe it? It's one of those that, again, it's quite hard to put into words, but the best I came up with is it's like entering the Matrix. That's how I would. This is like plugging in and stepping inside a different world. And it's, yeah, Clipping's world. And it's one of those records that is quite long, but I think they do such a good job of spacing out those high points. So they bring in like the kind of like interlude type bits, and the um those kind of like more dialed back moments at the right time, and then they ramp it right back up at the appropriate points as well. So like the pacing of it's fantastic. The skill involved in the beats and the rapping is next level. Um, yeah, it's one of those that every time I would go back to it, I just get as blown away as I was on that first listen. So yeah, this narrowly pipped Dave as my rap album of the year. I think everything about it is just A plus. You know, the beats, the rapping, the way it's conceptualized and strung together. Um, yeah, it's pretty faultless for me, and just a fun experience every time I go back to it. So love this record.
Yeah, another artist not familiar with before, being brought to our attention by Phil. So yeah, definitely worth the shout out to him. But yeah, I think I don't play video games, but listening to this album is like it takes me to that video game place of a kind of desolate dystopia. Go around, there's robots, there's guns. It's scary, but
It's the Matrix.
yeah. So and it takes you to that place. If you want to be transported, Dead Channel Sky. Go into that world. I imagine it's what it's like to play COD. Never played COD. And yeah, just a great immersive experience. Great band to be introduced to, and one which, with the modem sounds and everything like that, it's just so many great quirks which just make it so different, and yeah, such a cinematic or video game style experience ultimately. So very deserving second place. And yeah, so that we now come to our album of the year. So yeah, 2023 first year, it was Young Fathers with Heavy Heavy. Last year we had Fontaine's DC with Romance. And in 2025, on 56 points, our album of the year is Private Music by Deftones. We've talked about quirks in the voting and the scores versus our album of the month. This didn't even win album of the month in August. That went to For Those I Love. But
That's why August was the best month.
it's yeah, and we're all united on that. So yeah, this collectively, with all our voting, it takes the top prize. Yeah, I mean, I chose it having loved like OMS and Deftones, just being one of those legendary bands which is having a great sort of second wind in their career. Kylie and I scored it the highest out of both of us. I'll give it a little intro and then hand over to you guys for your take on our album of the year. But yeah, I think just ultimately this is a band who don't miss. I kind of missed them in terms of the new metal era. I was into other bands and they were on the periphery, but always knew their singles. I only really got into the discography with I think it was the self-titled one in 2003, which was promoted with Minerva, and then since then, kind of now and again, and weirdly, it was Sunday Times Culture magazine in 2020, which was giving props to OMS, and I thought, yeah, I'll listen to metal in a while, or bands like that from yesteryear. Let's give this a go. Absolutely loved that one, and so it sort of brought me back into Deftones world, and 5 years on, perfectly inclined to take their time to produce what they do and do in the way they do. But yeah, this is an outstanding record. Just that kind of dreamy sort of metal they produce, where it could only be Deftones, and they're still kicking ass with some of these songs as well. This isn't a band which is taking it easy. They're still really pushing things. There's a lot of dream focused lyrics as well, and kind of really sort of tapping into that consciousness we have, and yeah, ultimately, you see it in so many other lists, but out of all the ones we've done this year, this I think is a very, very deserving winner of the prize, where I just don't see anyone say any bad words about it, and rightfully so. I mean, Kylie, what's your take on Private Music and it winning our album of the year?
Well, I just think about, I've been listening to Deftones since Adrenaline, and they are the band from that new metal scene. I know everyone freaked out about Limp Bizkit's reunion 2 or 3 summers ago, and I'm happy for those people. But to think that this is the number one album of the year, that it's the 10th Deftones record. They're one of those bands that every time one of them comes out, it's the first thing I'm listening to. And even in, I think it was 2008, when their bassist got in a car wreck and almost died, Chi Chang, I thought that was maybe the end of Deftones then, and they came back with Diamond Eyes, that was phenomenal. But you know, we talked about before that I think Ohms was ever the slightest dip for me, if there could be a dip in Deftones records, even though I still think it's a really great record. Um, but Private Music, just I don't know. I don't know how this band, this far end, continues to just build upon themselves and continue to sound so fresh. Um, and they really nail it here. Just My Mind Is a Mountain, that opening track there, just the build up to bring you into what the Deftones are doing in 2025. Great, great. Laying it out there, and it's a it's a no skip, as it should be if it's a number one, right? Um, but yeah, shout out to all these guys that you know when their peers are often punchlines. Uh, they're still out here putting out great records, headlining festivals, and touring and doing it right. So, uh, yeah, loved this record. And real quick too, just have to mention, uh, 2023 Crosses, Chino Marino's side project. Good Night, God Bless, I Love You, Elite. Like that too was just probably top 3 records of that year for me. So it's no mistake. Chino Marino knows what he's doing, and I'm so thankful that Deftones are still here, just melting our faces all these years later.
And for the final word on Private Music, Karl.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think you guys kind of nailed it. This is a great metal band sounding as good as they've ever sounded 10 albums in, which is unprecedented. They just seem to be getting better and better. Like you, Andrew, big fan of Ohms, big fan of their recent material. And for me, I mean, Private Music is right up there with the best albums they've ever made. The way it flows together, the big tracks on here, My Mind is a Mountain, Milk of the Madonna, Souvenir with that lovely like ambient instrumental coming at the right time, like midway through. It's everything about it is pitched perfectly. It's got the right amount of bangers, the right amount of softer moments. And yeah, it's again just one album that I'd happily just go back to, listen to over and over again. And yeah, like you guys said, for a band to have been through everything that they've been through in their career and still make music this good deserves the top spot every day of the week. So shout out to them and the people that they're continuing to inspire as well in the scene. Definitely hearing it.
Definitely hear that.
Yeah,
A lot of
definitely.
records this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I mentioned Sleep Token at the top of the bill. Definitely hear that coming through in their sound. Any of your favorite like metal bands that are kind of killing it right now, you can hear Deftones DNA running through them. So, yeah, very deserving number one on our list.
So there you have it. Another quality year of music chronicled by the three of us, and congratulations to Deftones. Karl and I will be back in 2026 in some form, and we hope Kiley may make an appearance or two still. So thanks to everyone who's engaged with the podcast, and we will see you in the new year. You can stay up to date with what we're up to by following 5 to 9 on Instagram and YouTube. Keep up to date with New Music Central via @Karl Blakesley via Instagram and Threads, and Mama Mañana Records via @Mama Mañana Records on Instagram and YouTube. Thanks for listening.